Cecilia asked me to introduce this next item. She was pulled away for a moment. So this is the Program Integration of Student Success, Student Equity, and Basic Skills Initiative, and I will turn it over to the Chancellor to set this up.
Thank you, Board Vice President Epstein. Again, this is opportunity for us to talk about all the great work that's happening in the field. We are living in a moment in time where there is investment in our colleges, particularly around student success. And our charge now is to begin to integrate the reporting, integrate the goals that we're trying to achieve, and really leverage all of these efforts in pursuit of a single goal, which is to improve the opportunity for students to achieve their educational outcomes. So with that, I will turn it over to Vice Chancellor Walker.
I hope this is the last one I'm doing for you today, but this actually shouldn't be me, Vice President Epstein and Chancellor Oakley. I need to give significant kudos to Deputy Chancellor Eric Skinner, who developed the PRT through the IEPI and started this agenda moving. So,
can you define what you just said?
Eric's, no. So the professional resource teams comes out, partnership resource teams comes out of the involvement of the institutional effectiveness. And I think Vice Chancellor Tenna should tell you all about partnership resource teams. But the reality is what we found at our colleges is often we work in silos. And we're doing significant work in different places, but we don't find that way to integrate. And Deputy Chancellor Skinner saw a way for us to, sort of say what we're doing here as well as at the colleges. And so in light of that, we had a resource team come to the Chancellor's office. So our colleagues came to the Chancellor's office and looked at the 3 programs that we thought could potentially be integrated: basic skills, student success, and student equity. So bringing our colleagues together and looking at these particular programs led us into this effort of integration. And there are 2 reasons that we started this work. All 3 of those programs, the Basic Skills Initiative, SSSP, Student Success, and Equity, all have the same goals of increasing student success while closing the achievement gap. And there is this strong potential that there are overlapping activities between and among the programs. So if I'm doing something in one program and I'm doing something in the other program and the 2 aren't collaborating in any way, then we're spending money not very wisely. So, and we may not be we may be serving the same students or we may not be. So we wanted to do some developed work in trying to look at this integration and so look at how we can help with policy agendas and support our programs better. So we have Dean Kirsten Corbin and Dean Rhonda Moore, who you have seen today, and we have for the last year and a half that I have been able to be part of both of their divisions, is that trying to find every way we could to integrate, going to the same conferences, talking together at conferences, doing presentations together, but looking at breaking down the silos here in the Chancellor's office as well. And I think that these 2 and others in our divisions, other deans, have worked really hard to do that. And they're going to present all this work we're doing, but let me say one more time, we wouldn't have done this I wouldn't have taken this on had Eric Skinner not said, let's look at this a little bit differently. And so kudos to him. Okay.
So I just want to talk a little bit more about why we are doing this. And so in terms of We really are in such a great period of innovation and reform, but with that has come multiple initiatives. So not just the Basic Skills Initiative and the Student Success and Support Program and the Student Equity Program, but you also have the Educational Planning Initiative, you have the Common Assessment Initiative, you have the Institutional Effective Partnership Initiative, then we have other programs such as our ADTs, our baccalaureate programs, and now we've got our College Promise program. So what ends up happening is a lot of times when this legislation comes down, the requirement is to have a plan for that particular program. And what that then means is colleges are spending a lot of time creating plans, multiple plans. And as our own Chancellor Oakley, I heard him say at a conference, we really should just have one plan. It's our strategic master plan. So I think this is kind of our effort to start to move more in that direction. And the nice thing about having one plan is that, as Vice Chancellor Walker mentioned before, sometimes you can have duplicate efforts going on at the colleges, and where we can be more efficient with those fundings. And the other thing is that we spend so much time, the colleges spend so much time creating their plans that it gets into the time that they can spend actually implementing and actually reaching the goals that the legislation intended for in the first place. So it does give us more time. It does give the colleges more time for that cohesive planning and that implementation. And really, it just became evident with all of these plans and all of these initiatives that we needed to focus a lot more on integration and alignment, and we needed to do that at the Chancellor's office in order to act as a model for the colleges. Thankfully, a lot of our colleges had already started to go down this road of doing integration, so we were able to learn from them, and actually we did our new plan document. Actually, we stole something from one of the colleges because it works really well to align the different activities. And the idea is to maximize the gains that we can make in student completion, to streamline our work, and again, to help us be more efficient and thus also be more sustainable with the efforts that we're doing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Moore, who will talk about the partnership resource team.
The partnership resource team that joined us consisted of CEOs and vice presidents and faculty from across the system. And I think initially what Deputy Chancellor Skinner was hearing from the field is, you guys are going to drive us nuts if you keep making us do all of these plans. Student equity was probably the worst. We got plans that were 200 pages long. Triple SP, a mere 75 to 100 pages long. Basic skills was pretty tight at only about 6 pages long. So different types of different legislation, different regulations. So the partnership resource team came in and did a deep dive on just these 3 programs, concentrating on these 3 programs initially, and came up with some guiding principles. They met with the staff and the executive team several times. We then came up with a plan, an internal plan for addressing some of the issues. And then a small group of us started working in the fall and this spring to develop a draft. So we took the 3 basic skills, Triple SP and student equity. We took the legislation and the regulations and we really stripped them down. What is absolutely necessary to have? What does the law say we have to have in a plan? We found out pretty early on that maybe what the legislation said wasn't really what the legislature intended, but tackling some changes in legislation and regulation was going to take longer than we thought we had. We wanted to make a change really quickly. So we postponed. We didn't require any plans due for 16-17. We did a postponement. We came up with there's only 11 questions on the integrated plan. Now, one of those questions is list all of your goals from last year, and that might take many, many pages. But then for the coming years, we just want to hear about 5 of their most important and integrated goals. We want them to concentrate on the integration of those goals and the strategies for those. And then they'll still have to account for their program funds separately. We're not headed toward a block grant aspect. It's an integrated plan. They're already doing integrated planning, but this just puts it on one sheet of paper for us to review. We also made some pretty sweeping changes in the expenditure guidelines that came out and were actually effective for 16-17, did not wait until the new plan. And the expenditure guidelines, the flexibility that we've provided in those are going to allow colleges to better, so if they have an activity, if they have a goal, for instance, of reducing or increasing basic skills completion rates from 50% to 75%, the funding can come from one of 3 programs. So they need to sit down together, and each one of those programs needs to consider how that affects the intention of the legislation behind that program, and then they can best decide what pot of money to grab it from, okay, and account for it. And we're not going to make them jump through so many hoops on what they can spend that money on, as long as they're meeting the intent of the legislation. And they're going to do that, spend more time on campus doing that integrated planning than they are completing a plan and sending us hundreds of pages of documents each year. We also have some silos here at the Chancellor's office, which shocking, I know, that would be apparent, that would be here in a state office, but we do. And this is going to provide some opportunity for us to break down some silos. We have Kirsten and I, and we have 5 specialists and some other program staff that are now working together. We're going to try to build more of a culture of technical assistance and support rather than compliance. So, and it seems to be going well. We have some in-person training coming up in April and May, and the PRT, the planning process, is not over, so we will continue that throughout the coming months.
So Dean Moore is accurate. We're going to be talking to the Chief Student Services Officers, the Chief Instruction Officers, the Chief Business Officers, along with the other conferences that we're going to have for the people doing the plans, so that everyone on a campus has to be involved. When we originally looked at some of these wonderful initiatives, if it's basic skills, it must have gone to the instructional vice president. If it was student success, it only could have gone to the student services professionals, because the instructional folks must not care about student success, right? So we're coming back and doing some really deep embedded work in making sure that that it gets to the right people, and then we need to get to those folks that have their hands on the money, which is the vice presidents of business services, to make sure they can get people hired and appropriately allocate the resources. So this is a wonderful new opportunity to look at integration, and we should look at ways we can do that throughout everything that we do.
Thank you for that presentation. Okay, I know I have Board Member Sumner. Do I have anybody else in the queue? Okay, all right, so take it away, Member Sumner.
Well, am I correct there's going to be about $425 million with this for the Student Success and Equality Program, give or take approximately that much? And then when I want to talk about veterans, in those categories, they get priority, they have disabilities, they are low income, they are homeless, but do we have a way to track them and collect data? Do we have because it says you're supposed to have a disappropriate impact study outlined in student equity plan. Do we have that in existence for veterans right now?
No. So one of the things that happens when it called out certain groups, the colleges had the ability to look at their plans per college, right? So we didn't say, this is what the legislation said, this is what we sent out. And veterans could have easily been one that got called out at any number of our colleges. but the colleges determined that they needed to look at other groups. And so, as we all know, that we probably need to take a deeper, more intuitive look at our veterans programs and try to be, have more data to be able to use that and to help the colleges determine that's what they want to do with some of their resources. So if we were directed by the Chancellor to look at another sets of programs, we would do that data collection.
Because I know that we had recommended previous board meeting requesting 30 million. I mean, I don't want to put numbers on things, but we've already said that the board wants to really support veterans, but it would be really nice to have, as the Board of Governors, to have the oversight over that, because I think that's what we're really lacking is oversight of these VRCs. People try to really help and do, but after going to the Veteran Summit, I mean, veterans, it's a population that's included, and they're not getting the funding. They're not getting the proper skills, training. And the basic skills, when you look at it, I hate to admit that, but they have a lot of the struggles. But it's not that I'm only thinking about veterans, but I'm thinking about all the other people that have special needs and things like that. So I would just, as on the board, would recommend that maybe we take a look at this and we get some data and, pull the VRCs in because, they really want to have come the direction coming from us.
So if I could just make a few points, and I think certainly your assessment of the challenges that our veterans face is accurate. The issue with this integration effort is every college should be assessing the needs of every group of students on that campus. From my previous experience at Long Beach, certainly veterans is a large demographic of students and the college should be looking at data specific to veterans. So part of our challenge and part of our responsibility is to ensure that we're putting out the guidance necessary to the field to make sure they understand that veterans is not a separate issue. Veterans is part of the students that we serve under these programs. Veterans should be front and center in these programs. This is not an issue of waiting for other outside funding. The funding is there. And so we will be following up to ensure that the field understands that. Many colleges are already using those resources because that is exactly what those resources are for, to support the needs, whether it's whether a college faces challenges with African Americans, Latino students, economically disadvantaged students, whatever the case may be, veteran students are a category within those student demographics. So I know our team feels that way, so we need to do a better job of providing guidance to the field.
I'm going to jump the queue just to speak on this point. So I think, I appreciate the Chancellor's comments, because I think part of what you guys are trying to do is speed, too. I appreciate that you sat down and thought through, I know that the legislature must have meant something else than what is stated here. So let's provide that guidance to to the field. To that point, I do think the Chancellor's correct. If to the extent that when you provide additional guidance about the flexibility and the way you can draw from the different pools of funds, even if you were just to say, for example, the Veterans Resource Centers is a tool that has often been known to address veterans who have the following issues, and that this funding could be used from these three sites, could be used to support your Veterans Resource Center and achieve our goals. I think that would do a world of help, right?
And
Giving
just,
folks some
right,
guidance.
and just so you know, we did do something last year with, there was some additional funds that we were able to secure when some colleges couldn't spend their money. And we sent something back out about veterans, about formerly incarcerated.
Right.
So we did some of that work, but we'll do a little deeper dive into this and work with the Chancellor to make sure we have the right set of circumstances going out for people. And we'll also try to do a couple of studies that will help us further some of this information for our colleges.
I think that'll be terrific. Great. All right, I have Board Member Haynes.
Thank you. So on the question of veterans, one of the things that has happened not just on our campuses, but in our district, but in other districts, is to, when a student enrolls, there's a box to check that you're a vet. And that's the case for foster youth, because in many times they didn't self-identify. So that's helpful. And what I would say is we need to make certain that all of the districts are having a way to identify those students who are most in need, and regardless of whether they check, that our staff and our administrators, whatever door they're walking into to get some assistance, that those questions are being asked of them. Because in many cases, our vets are, even without them being named, and I think it's important for groups to be named, they're already embedded within the work that each of the campuses are doing. I want you to be assured that they're getting these services irregardless of, and we need to make certain that more of them get it, but they are getting these services. So my comment is twofold. One, the issue, I think we are all in agreement. It's important to have efficiency. The other three are transparency, accountability, and alignment. And then when we go down further, at the end of the day, and sometimes I think our legislators need to be reminded why they introduce so many bills, it's really about outcomes. It's really, at the bottom, it's really about outcomes. And so let me just speak to my outcomes for students. Let's be clear. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you what my frustration has been, and I hear it among my colleagues here. But it's a system, and I think it's a system-wide frustration, and it is the data piece, because we are asking y'all, we're asking you to provide us data to make good decisions. And part of that frustration is that it takes so long to get that data. And while I understand that piece, I don't like that piece, that it takes so long, because by the time we get the data, we're 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the pike on then saying, oh, okay, well, that's sort of, if we'd known that, maybe we would have done this. So
by then you could have all new legislators too.
that might be a good thing. But okay, so I just want everyone to hear the urgency of good data to make decisions and to shorten the time it takes. And even if it's giving us a short-term piece of it, and I know that's sort of hard because it might not be declarative, but it truly is very difficult sort of waiting. And the scorecard is a perfect example of 6-year-old data about students who may not even be in the system anymore for community colleges. It's helpful that we get that back perspective, but what I want is what's happening with our students, right now. What's happening who are in the cohort right now. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Governor Haynes, you made a wonderful segue for a commercial for the Guided Pathways initiative.
You're welcome.
I mean, we have been first realized that as a community college system, we're the first and really still one of the only systems that even have a scorecard. So that was progress.
Yes.
The challenge we have now is that we don't know what's happening in the near term to guide us on making decisions. The Guided Pathways model changes that mindset and gets us focused at developing leading indicators in addition to the lagging indicators. The leading indicators could be everything from, achieving sophomore status, 30 units of credit courses, predictors that we know from either statewide data or national research that tells us something about how to predict whether a student is going to complete their outcome. We have that data, we have that research. It's not that we need to go create the research. It's a matter of how do we bring it all to bear on each and every one of our campuses. As you know, as is the case in the Los Rios district and many of our districts, some colleges are already well on their way to doing that, even without a system-wide initiative. Our effort now is to really create a system-wide framework that will give you the data in real time that you're looking for. It's obvious, it's intuitive. Unfortunately, because of the way that our data systems work, it has not been readily available, and that's the work that we're going to have to do.
Board Member Reed.
Pam, a number of times when you speak with different presentations, you talk about going to the field, and my only concern is, are we touching, the smaller schools as well as the larger schools when we say that?
Absolutely.
So a Lake Tahoe or a Redwood or someone would have input into this as well?
Absolutely. We spend, it has always been that we want to make sure that all 113 colleges know what's going on and how we can be helpful. And you'll notice that some of the smaller schools got baccalaureate degrees, got promise grants, and so we really work hard at making sure that colleges in the far north and out in the desert, everybody is, it's just not located in Southern California or up the Central Valley. We do everything we can to make sure everybody is.
Board Member.
We really try to do that.
Sorry. Board Member Baum. Were you? Oh, you weren't in the queue. Okay. Vice President Epstein.
First of all, I just want to say I really appreciate this project. For my simple mind, some of the complexity of the funding of these community college programs, CTE was the one that drove me particularly crazy when I was preparing for Rules Committee with seven different sources of funding. And anything you can do to continue to simplify this for everybody is God's work. Speaking of God's work, though, I do note that we have two people in the room here who may be responsible for some of these programs. We have Member Conway, who was in the legislature when these responsibilities these bills were passed, and of course, Vice Chancellor Mattoon probably wrote all of it when she was the committee counsel.
We won't comment on how well she wrote it.
So perhaps I was hoping that they might be able to shed some light on how to, if we need legislative change, how we might be able to do that.
All right.
That was actually a joke.
It's okay. You're okay. Vice Chancellor Mattoon is so earnest.
Vice Chancellor Mattoon will shift all the blame to Sandy Freed, who was the consultant before Laura.
Yeah. All right. Board Member Belansky.
I just want to simply endorse what you said about in sending out this new plan to districts. It would be helpful to say, as you do your planning, here are some things you might want to consider, or things that were even raised at the Board of Governors, or that, that way, if that isn't first in their thinking, it does put some ideas out there that some districts may really find helpful to know about. As new initiatives come through, do you see possibly having to or willing to integrate those into the planning? Because if we get this money for guided pathways, and then which is in the budget, and that continues, that's aligned with these three initiatives here. So why have one new plan when it could be integrated into that? You have a statement also, and I'm just curious what it means, that we plan to pursue other similar improvements in coming months and years.
So, my colleague, Vice Chancellor Von Ton Quinlivan, we talked about the next step, and this next iteration would be how we fold in some of the work with the workforce and CTE. We're doing that same thing with the streamlining curriculum. She spoke of that earlier today, and we have taken an inordinate amount of time this year looking at streamlining curriculum. We'll be before, I know that's not the most exciting thing that we talk about, but we'll be before you in May and July with some very serious opportunities for us to streamline that based on some of the workforce agenda. So every time there's something new, we should look for ways that we can streamline this work and make it easier for the colleges to do the work they do.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I want to thank you, all three of you, for your presentation. We're now on to item 3.7, which is board member reports, and we invite our colleagues who have any urgent and truly critical reports to volunteer to make a brief statement as to the activities relevant in the last 2 months that they would like to report to their tired colleagues. Yes. Okay, so my queue has board members Shaw, DeLille, oh my goodness, Khan. Really, people? Sumner. Did I see you, Danny? Okay, Hawkins. You're killing me. You're killing me.
Let the people speak.
Okay. All right. We're going to go. I always like to start on the left.
You said start with me.
I'm going to start with you, Shaw.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Board member Shaw.
Right. She's on the left.
You're on my left, Conway. I got you down.
She's on the right.
Okay. Go ahead, board member Shaw.
Thank you.
Go on the right.
Well, everyone, I want to thank the governor for reappointing me. I was delighted with that, but I think Vice President Epstein sort of mentioned the fact that I wasn't as enamored with the confirmation process. It's just sort of arduous and long, and the 27 questions or whatever. But again, I'm grateful for that. I want to say that I visited Cerritos College and met with the president and the local trustee, Dr. Salazar, Sandra Salazar. She's an MD, and toured that facility, and it was really, I really enjoyed that campus. It's really peaceful, and the people seem to be happy. I also stood in for Vice Chancellor Walker by attending the Amend meeting. That was just fantastic. It's a group that supports African American men and also Latino men and moving forward in the community college system. There were over 800 people at that conference. It was just huge, unbelievable. And the keynote was author and public intellectual Michael Eric Dyson. If you've ever heard his keynote, I've never heard anything like it. It was absolutely amazing. Sort of finally, I want to welcome a member Fan to the group, and I sat next to him at lunch. He seemed to be a very lovely person. But I'd also like to talk about Jeff Burdick. Nice. And how I enjoyed sitting next to him during the time that he was here, that I know he had over 25 years of experience. And there's really some sort of special grace about him, that the way he understood the system, the way he cared about the students. Jennifer and I were just talking about politics and how people really don't understand one another in the world, and how disparate groups don't understand one another because they don't walk in the shoes of one another. But what impressed me most about him was his understanding of his students. He took time out to understand the life views and the various paths that the different ethnicities walked in his classroom. And I found that extraordinary, unusual, and extraordinary. So I just want to acknowledge his compassion and commitment that he gave to this board and that he gives daily in the classroom, and say that he will be missed.
Thank you. Board member DeLille.
Thank you. I too had the honor to travel to Washington, D.C. with three peers from El Camino College. We were able to meet with several legislators, discuss some of the issues plaguing our community college, really got in depth with Patty Murray's office and the Department of Education on the year-round Pell Grant and how we can start enforcing that and really starting to grow that system. We also got to discuss open education and how funding and anything we can do to get resources into that wonderful, wonderful program would be amazing for our system. Secondly, with UC's and CSU's acceptances rolling in, I just wanted to thank both systems for their continued partnership with the California Community College system. Thank Chancellor Oakley for everything that he's done with those two systems, and encourage the continued partnership between our three organizations. And lastly, I wanted to welcome our new member. Enjoy the Pledge of Allegiances and everything else that comes along with being the rookie. I'm no longer. And I would like to once again say I will miss Member Burdick, and in our short interactions, it's been nothing but pleasant.
Thank you. Board Member Khan.
All right, so the campaign I work with, Heads Up America, which we actually have a board member with our Chancellor Oakley, is hosting a video contest for students who are part of our community college system or recently graduated. They can win up to $2,000 by posting a video on Instagram that's 1 minute long on the theme of breaking up with student college debt.
Great.
So it's really simple. Go to headsupamerica.us/breakup. It's pretty convenient. And you can learn about the contest itself. We actually have two celebrity guests, Cal Penn, who's worked for the White House. He's also part of Designated Survivor. And of course, the Oscar snub series, Harold and Kumar, which I don't even need to get into. And Ted Allen of Food Network's Chopped will also be one of our guest judges. So please let students know that this opportunity is available, because it's a great way to just support yourself. So I really appreciate all of your help. Thank you.
That's terrific. Member Perry? You can pass. It's okay.
I'd like to commend Member Shaw for that really nice tribute to Burdick, and I'd like to commend President Estolano for attempting to rein in this obstreperous and very vocal group. However, and a totally self-serving coalescence of what I do here and what I do when I'm not shopping, which is the way my husband views my life. I was at Santa Monica Community College doing an interview about foster care with a professor there, Eve Adler, who was involved in the Senate there, and Sydney Kamlager, who is part of the LA trustee board, has joined a group I'm with called Foster More, which works to dispel misconceptions about youth in foster care. So it's nice to have her voice added, and as I said, it's a nice, albeit somewhat self-serving coalescence of two things I do. So thanks.
Thank you. Board Member Sumner.
I'll make it short. Actually, I was very honored to be at the Veterans Summit and do the opening remarks after walking around the room and seeing the murals. But the flag was given to us, and I gave it to Baca. And what we want to try to do is to have it encased, and at every Veteran Summit or things that we do, we bring that flag because it was signed by everybody that attended there. And there was over 200 people that attended there, and I think I've already talked a lot about that. But the Veteran Summit is just amazing when I look at the educators and the people that are there, and there was more civilians than there was military, which excited me because it's about the community, it's about the education system, and they all want to help together. It's not we're just veterans, but we're all going to the community college. And then to be honored at the Daughters of the American Revolution, when you Google it, it was like really exciting for me because what it stands for is patriotism, education, and it's all about history. What the awards are all about, it's different than what some people would think. So I just want to say how impressed and how they really want to reach out more to the community as far as with education. So if there's colleges out there, there's 113 chapters, and we have 113 colleges. So when I spoke, and actually thank you for Joseph, he actually came and was there, and the ceremony was 3.5 hours, let me tell you. But it was just very, very impressive. So I just really would say reach out so we can get money however we can get money for our college campuses. But they give scholarships. But to hear those kids from 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade read their stories was just amazing. So, and just to add on to that, a to-do list from somebody, I haven't seen anything in our minutes regarding the status on disaster preparedness, emergency operations plans for the community colleges. Okay. Thank you. Member Hawkins.
Thank you, President Estolano. I just wanted to add to the record my personal thanks for Dr. Jeanette Jackson to bring the 9 classified employees to this meeting. It's a great prelude to next month when we do the classified Community College Classified Employee of the Year awards. Thank you. Just to again congratulate Member Sumner for the award that she got the other night. A Medal of Honor is a great distinction, and the person who presented her was very impressive because she gave a complete listing of the kind of dedication that Member Sumner has had for our nation and continues to have for our nation. I look forward to Thursday being at the Phi Theta Kappa event, which will focus on students, and I'll leave it there.
Now we know why it took 3 hours. They were going through all your accomplishments. Vice President Epstein.
I should have said and welcome to the other faculty member that's here.
Hi, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Chancellor, who I thought did a fabulous job on our DC trip, both in a public event and in all the meetings. I also had the privilege of attending the PPIC event where he spoke with the other state education leaders, did a terrific job there representing us. I also had the opportunity to attend the College Promise event that was held with Oakland and Richmond, some of the local colleges who were all very impressive in what they're doing. Also had a chance as part of that to have it would be part of a small meeting with the former Second Lady, Jill Biden, who is forming with her husband a foundation that is going to continue to work on this. So hopefully we can continue to do that. Welcome the new board member, and also want to pay my respects to our departed board member, who were great.
Great. Board Member Reed, you're going to pass? Appreciate it. Board Member Baum.
Everybody's talking about Jeff Burdick like he passed on
did
to
not
another dimension.
He's not dearly
I
departed.
anticipate we'll enjoy and collaborate with him for a long time in the future. And welcome to our new board member. 2 very quick things. Chancellor, thank you very much for coming to Rancho Mirage for a private dinner with Justice Kennedy and other judges to talk about the importance of civics education and how we can improve that in our schools and engage our students in understanding the fundamental, the foundation of our democracy. Thank you very much. And I did want to say one thing. When I first entered public life and decided to run for office almost 20 years ago, the first individual who actually of stature that gave me encouragement and offered to endorse me was our former State Attorney General, John Vandekamp. He was a neighbor and a friend and active in our community. John passed away suddenly last Tuesday, and he's left an enormous hole in the fabric of our community and set an example of public service and grace and wisdom. And I saw him 2 weeks ago. He came to our regular neighborhood board meeting, and he was active for his entire life. And a gentleman who, after a very distinguished career at the local and state level, retired from public office, decided to apply himself as a neighborhood volunteer and as a community volunteer. And for the last 25 years, he was unfailingly engaged and active and encouraging, and opened his home up to the entire neighborhood. And I'm grateful for the opportunity of getting to know him and for the mentorship he provided to me, but also the leadership he provided to our state.
Thank you. Board Member Burdick? Budnick?
Oh my God, you've screwed it up twice today.
What is up with me today and you? I've missed you so much. That's the problem.
I've missed you too.
Yes.
I'd like to apologize to everyone for my absence. I've been all over the world and a little sick today, so pardon the Jeb Bush low energy thing happening here. And want to serve as a role model to the rest of my colleagues and keep this within 20 seconds.
Thank you. Board Member Conway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I don't want to sound like, former governor member Burdick is gone to another resting place. I want to say happy trails to not only him and all former members, and a welcome to our new member. You really know that, as the youngsters told you, they used to have to sit by me, and they've now given that to you. So We'll see how long you last with over here on the left side with Ms. Conway. And I promised I would be brief. So just a couple of announcements. I don't know if you're aware, but our President Sonia Christensen from Bakersfield College. I was a sponsor and attended the Kern County Hispanic Chamber Awards dinner a couple of weeks ago, and she was presented the Woman of the Year Award by the Kern Hispanic Chamber and gave a very gracious speech for her participation in education, which I thought was great. And I also had an opportunity to visit with President Rosa Carlson from Porterville College and some of her staffers. I know I get harping on this, on the nursing staffing ratio. It's just a thing with me at smaller colleges. They can't, you have willing students who've met all the requirements. They just can't find nursing instructors, and I know exemptions are a bad thing because it's a me too and a slippery slope, but somehow I will solve this mystery if it takes going back to the legislature, which may or may not happen. Anyway, it was a good conversation, and my point on that is just how do we get students that really want to be there and qualify and are motivated? How do we find a way to get them to these programs so that old people like me will have medical care when they need it? Some people would tell you that I need it now, or maybe that's mental health. One of the two. Anyway, that's the end of my happy report. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Conway. Haynes.
So I just want you to know, first off, I've put a line through 4 of my items. So this is my attempt at brevity. So first, I know he's not dead as well, but I just want to thank Jeff Burdick for his service to this particular board. And I also want to welcome Member Fan to the Board of Governors. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I, too, went to the Veterans Summit. It was my first summit attending, and I want to recognize Nancy Sumner and her remarks and her passion around these issues. Your voice is really needed on this board, so thank you very much. And then the other thing about the Veterans Summit, which came up in my Senate confirmation hearing, and it is the work that faculty is doing around recognizing with unit credit the skills training for vets that they receive while in the military. And I just want to publicly say how critical that is, and I know that it's arduous work. Keep at it because it's truly important to the system. I know the system is doing some work on it, and I know that this work is sometimes difficult, but I would encourage continued perseverance in that area. And then I want to tell you how delighted I am to be appointed to the California Workforce Pathways Joint Advisory Committee. This is only after the first meeting. I may feel differently after the second, since I'm going to have to chair. I'm vice chair, and I'm going to have to chair that one, so we'll see. But it is a marvelous opportunity to blend both the State Board of Education and the Board of Governors in the work that we are both doing, and to break down once again another silo. It's very clear to me that we both have things to offer each other that will make the work that we do better. So I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, I too will be going to the Phi Theta Kappa luncheon. This is about students who excel and are doing well, and we absolutely need to recognize them. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Board Member Fan.
If I may, thank you. Well, thank you so very much for the warm welcome. Gesture that all of you have expressed have made me feel very comfortable on my first day on the job here. And considering it's only 5 hours into the job, I think I might have spoken a bit too much today for the newest kid on the block. But as an educator, whenever I see opportunities to support, advocate, assist, or offer my commentary on programs and initiatives that would move our students upward and onward. I tend not to be hesitant to do so, but I do so, hopefully in the most collegially way. I haven't had the fortune to have much exchange with Mr. Burdick, but considering what I've heard, maybe except when Julia and her fellow senators call us down for a meeting or an interview in January, we exchange handshake. But given his success in working with all of you here over the past years, I definitely will attempt to reach out to him and learn from him his passion, his vision of serving on this board, so I may continue that. One note that I wanted to echo what Board Member Shaw mentioned was I also attended the A2 Men conference. Actually, my panel was an hour before the lunch period where you spoke. And I brought 2 students with me to speak on culturally relevant pedagogy and how we can increase student success in the classroom by understanding the students' cultures and whatnot. And one of the students was a younger sister of a chancellor who you saw earlier this morning. And another student, his name is Marshall. And he came to my marketing class after 7 years behind bars and shared the story how his time behind bars really affected his thinking toward education. And his message was so well received by the standing room audience in my workshop that after the presentation, a few folks have asked him to speak at their college campuses to inspire students. So my design in that conference or that workshop is to have students telling their fellow students what you need to do, what your responsibility, what your level of commitment is with respect to your education. Because we can say that as educators and as instructors, but I think it becomes more powerful when Hassoun or Iman go out to the student body and share that message. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Phan. Okay, we have one last item, which is the public forum. I think we have one more public comment that we're going to call upon.
And we do, and it's Sharon Vogel.
Now it's working. Thank you. President Estalano, Vice President Epstein, the board, and Chancellor Oakley. I'm Sharon Vogel, nursing faculty at Butte College, and also the president of FAC. And I can tell you how we expand nursing is we do need more faculty, but mainly we need more facilities. I have no hospitals to send my students to. So if you have a solution to that one, woohoo. Thanks to the board and to the Chancellor's office for trying to fix our initiative fatigue. We have huge initiative fatigue, especially at Butte College, who applies for anything that moves. So thank you for trying to put things together so into one plan instead of 29 plans. I appreciate it deeply. And also for your guidance in helping support our local colleges with how to defend our students when they're so anxious. I want to welcome all of you to come to our next conference, which is for counselors. Our last one had 350 counselors there. This one is titled Equity-Minded Counseling for Counselors, April 21st at Loyola Marymount. So please consider coming. We would love to have you there. And a brief update, Jonathan Lightman, our executive director, did travel back to Washington, D.C. in February to go speak before NYSEG regarding accreditation issues. And then at our keynote event, our advocacy and policy event in early March, we honored Chief Justice of California, Tani Cantrell and I'm going to slaughter her last name, Sakui, who became our first Distinguished Alumni Award, and talk about a motivating speaker and what a role example and a mentor for our students there. It was fabulous. And she is an alumni of Sac City. And then we also honored Kevin McCarty, Assemblyman Kevin McCarty, and staffer Monica Hensterosa for all her years as a staffer working on education, and then also Senator Richard Pan, and spent days advocating. So just thank you very much for all the support that you give our community colleges. And again, at Butte College, we were affected by the Oroville Dam. So I appreciate the comment about what are we doing for disaster planning. In our county, we're doing a lot right now. You learn from situations, and I can say we have good leaders who have learned from our situation. We actually had students who were deeply affected, some who still have not come back to class, that we know are still too afraid to move back to their homes. And I had faculty who were infected. And I had facilities. I had my students at facilities, and I had to call, and one of my faculty had to stay for 24 hours because there was no one else to come in to replace the staff they had there. Another faculty, as she was evacuating, saw people running down the street, screaming, "Help me, help me." They didn't have a car to drive in. And elderly on wheelchairs in the sidewalk waiting for someone to pick them up. So do we need to have better disaster plans? You bet. But did we have a community who rallied around us? You betcha. So thank you.
I don't believe we have any other speaker cards for public comment. So following Board Member Baum's lead, I'd like to adjourn this meeting in honor of a gentleman and a true public servant and statesman, John Vandekamp.